Hello there guys, welcome back to ShootOut. Welcome back to a new video. Myself and George are here for a subject that I think many of you have been waiting for us to talk about, and that is none other than home turf, home team, our lads, Chelsea Football Club. George, how you doing?
Mate, you know what? I'm good. I've been talking about Chelsea a bit more today, and I'm not going to lie to you, until I think yesterday evening, I totally forgot that we even had the Blackburn game today. And that's actually made me feel a bit better about Chelsea in a way, because finally we don't have to wait a week. We've got another competition that we can win in. So hopefully we can get the job done against Blackburn and kind of not forget, but like we can kind of just like have something positive to talk about as opposed to just that Brentford defeat. But other than that, mate, I'm bloody rosy. I'm good. I'm chilling here. Got my water bottle with me. I'm talking to you. Life couldn't be much better.
Yeah, big up to H2O. I've got my bottle next to me too. It's funny you say that you forgot the Blackburn game because as this goes to show, like we've completely separated ourselves from any possibility of playing midweek football because we're not in European competition anymore. Even the Carabao Cup game, we're just like, yep, I forgot that even exists. But no, you're right. However, look, are you saying we're gonna beat Blackburn today? Is that gonna be pretty straightforward? Is there no chance that they could come to the bridge and do a number on us?
I mean, look, the amount of times now that I have been caught in the mud saying, yeah, we're gonna win. Like we both said it in our predictions.
This is what I'm saying.
We thought Brentford should have been as straightforward as it comes, but like there isn't any way I can sit here and rationalise in a backwards manner as a Chelsea fan that we're playing against a team in the Championship. We're at Stamford Bridge, and I don't expect us to win. If Chelsea don't beat Blackburn tonight, I do not care who is on that field. It is an absolute shambles. It is a pure disaster because this season, right, the league is already looking, if you look at the balance of 10 games or 10 games it is. If you look at that, you're looking at it thinking, at the moment, we deserve to be where we are. We might have been a bit unlucky. Players going to come back from injury. It could get better. But at the same time, it could very easily get worse because of the zero progress we've made against low blocks. But we've only got 3 chances to win a trophy this season. And you would say, looking at City being out, Spurs being out, you can say that this Carabao Cup could be there for Chelsea. It really, really could be. So with that in mind, we have to win this game, progress to the next round, and then just hope that it's a very nice draw, I guess. I think.
This is because when you look at the possibility of going to the quarterfinal, we could still end up playing Port Vale, Mansfield. You know, if I'm not mistaken, I think Middlesbrough. There are some possibilities. Now you could end up on the dirty side. You could end up playing Liverpool or Arsenal or Man United. So that's all a possibility. But that is something that I'm hoping if we progress tonight, we end up going to, having to deal with maybe in a final or semi-final at best. So, no, you're absolutely right. However, Blackburn, we've not seen Blackburn in the last, 15 years, I think. They've just disappeared off the face of the earth because they used to be a Premier League side. They won the Premier League in the late 90s and mid-90s. And it was a case of, since I think we had about Carlo Ancelotti, I think, as our manager, we've not seen Blackburn in the Premier League. They had one of their main men come out and speak, right, and say that, Chelsea are Chelsea. This is from Tronstad, by the way, player for Blackburn. Chelsea are Chelsea, but they're not the best Chelsea we've seen at the moment. We're looking forward to it. What's your immediate impression on that?
I mean, look, I'd expect them to say absolutely nothing less than that. I think when it comes to the Cups, if you're a team like Blackburn, again, if you think about the history, like you mentioned, they were Premier League winners. They're a club with rich history. They've got a passionate fan base. Coming to Chelsea, for them, having been in the Championship for so long, and it's the same for them. They know that there is a quarter-final place here in a major competition up for grabs where there is a possibility that they can also have a very tasty draw for them in the quarterfinals, which sees them in a semi-final, and then who knows what can happen. This competition is often a competition where the big clubs maybe don't take it so seriously. They have other priorities. And I think for Blackburn, they are going to be looking at this one as a really good opportunity to build momentum for their own championship season. You beat Chelsea and somehow knock us out. Like, that is going to give them so much confidence in the championship, which, as we know, is such a difficult league to navigate yourself out of. They've struggled for many years now. But I do think overall, the onus has always got to be on Pochettino here. The onus has to be on Chelsea to kind of put to the back of the mind and put to bed what was such a bad performance in the last game and fix it. So I think no matter what Blackburn players might say, if Chelsea do turn up tonight and play even good, I think we should win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with your sentiment here. I agree with the sentiment of Tronstad and his analysis in terms of looking at it from a Blackburn perspective. I would do the exact same. So I don't blame him one bit. And he's right. There is, look, if you're looking at Chelsea right now, especially as an inferior team, you know that if you are sitting up low and you're waiting for a break and you're defending well enough, you probably do have a chance. So I can understand his outlook on that. In terms of Chelsea and absolutely having to win today, that's a non-negotiable, because you're right, this is a chance for a trophy. You end up in the quarterfinal, semi, at that point anything can happen. It's a cup competition, anything can happen. So going all the way becomes a possibility. And that would be an absolute boost for this squad like this, where if you win a Carabao Cup, it's just a taste of, much like the team had in 04-05, it's a taste of knowing what silverware is. And for these lads that have never won anything in their life. So, you know, that is definitely something that could benefit us in the long run. When you're looking at Chelsea this season so far, or if we're looking at the last game against Brentford, I want to ask you, how are you looking at that loss and now moving on from that? Are you looking at that loss as... There are some Chelsea fans looking at it as, look, we beat Brighton, we beat Burnley, we beat Fulham, we got unlucky against Arsenal, we fumbled against Brentford. It happens, right? We've lost 1 in the last 5. Okay, big deal. Doesn't matter. Let's move on. Or are you looking at it as, this is a loss that shouldn't have happened in the way that it did happen? And yes, we did win those games that I've just mentioned, but we fumbled it against Arsenal when we shouldn't have. We've lost this. Are we running back into form that we don't want to run back into, like we were prior to getting those couple of results that I mentioned? Yeah. How do you see it? Do you see it from a positive lens or a negative lens?
I think you've got to look at it from a couple of different lenses. I think the first one is, if you take the first half performance against Brentford, we weren't bad at all. And I think when you take Enzo out of that team, which is something that we haven't seen at all in any game, basically, since he arrived at the club, he's been like the star. He's been the man that we're all looking at and saying, well, he's going to be the one to make things happen. Not even in the matchday squad for family reasons. When I saw that, I was like, I was worried, I'm not going to lie. But then Cole Palmer, I actually think, did a really good job in the midfield. He looked like the most likely to make stuff happen. And I think if it was anyone other than Cucurella in the box at that moment, I think we probably would have gone in 1-0 up. And then the game is a totally different game. Chelsea, when we concede the first goal, this happens all the flipping time. So in terms of like the lens of frustration, that's obviously evident. Even if Chelsea were to lose 2-0 at home to Man City, we're going to be frustrated. And I think the most frustrating thing is the wave that we were riding in the lead up to that Brentford game. People will say like, oh, these guys don't know football. Eunice and George are stupid, thinking you're going to win 3-0, 2-0, whatever. No, like when Chelsea is starting to tick, which we had been prior to that match, you expect to beat Brentford at home. Now, it's not about us being dumb. Exactly. It's not about us not knowing football. It's just like, as fans, you have to try and look through a positive lens. But at the same time, Chelsea should be winning that game. So for me, this is now a huge test, be it the Blackburn game tonight, even Spurs even more so on Monday night, where it's like, look, this is the game that means the most to fans. If you put in an abject performance in that, then no wonder we're all giving up. You know, I've literally just seen on my phone, at the time of me and you recording this video now, Pochettino's comments on Jackson. For different reasons, he is suffering. Nico needs support. I understand the fans. They are entitled to say what they want. At this moment, you are fragile. You need help. You need confidence. I believe in him. That's one isolated player. It's the squad, I think, that still, no matter how pissed off we might be, they do need support. They're still young. They're still gelling together. It's still new under Pochettino. So I think the only thing we can hope for, game by game, is that incremental progress can be made, and we don't keep having these like little bursts of form that then spike into like a disaster result like Brentford.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's a case of with the Brentford game, it's not a case of we thought we'd win because we're cocky and look at that, you got proven wrong. Like, no, when you put in a performance like you did against Arsenal, right, and then you fumble it at the very end, but you fumble it for the reasons that we did explain at the time, and we thought, okay, crap, it feels like a loss, but for 74 minutes, we were good. We were really good, right? You think you take that forward into Brentford at home, you're winning that. You should be beating Brentford at home. That should be a non-negotiable. Now, for some people are going to say, no, but that's underestimating Brentford. No, it's not underestimating Brentford. In fact, I think the problem was overestimating Chelsea on the day, because it was ourselves that let ourselves down. It was Chelsea's performance that let ourselves down. Brentford came with a plan that we knew they were going to come with. It's not like, we were shocked that they played in a low block. Like, no, that we all knew that was what they were going to do. So I think it's a case of looking within and looking at ourselves, not at Brentford. We knew what Brentford would come and do, but us thinking we would beat Brentford was a case of us thinking, no, look, we've got enough quality here to get a job done against Brentford at home, surely. And if that is a problem, then I'm sorry, for a club like Chelsea Football Club, for a level that we should be operating at, that's just unacceptable. It shouldn't be there, no matter what we have or the squad that we have, but the money that we've spent, the investments we've made, the managers that we do have, the players and the quality that we do have, we should be beating Brentford at home.
Yes.
We just should. So that's where the prediction came from, and that's why the loss has set us back in the manner that it has, and why now I'm asking these questions, because will this continue? Is this just a moment, or is this us dipping back into form that we were at the start of the season? You mentioned like the players that are still youthful and inexperienced and all of that. There's so many factors here. So going into Tottenham and going into these games that are coming forward, are you confident? Are you optimistic, or do you feel like we've set ourselves back a bit? Are we gonna still have games where we struggle? What do you expect?
I mean, I think if you take it back to before the Brentford game, you look at the run of fixtures and you're like, well, if we beat Brentford, we still don't expect to get anything against Spurs, City, Newcastle if we just focus on the next four. Like, I still don't think I expect anything from any of these three games, to be very, very blunt and honest about it. But I will say that the way that we've played this season against teams that don't sit back has been significantly better. We were excellent against Liverpool, I thought, for the majority of the match. We were excellent against Arsenal for the majority of the match. And I think with Spurs, Ange Postecoglou, we're going to talk about Tottenham in the next video here on ShootOut, by the way, guys. But like, Ange has got Spurs playing away right now, a certain way. I mean, not away from home. Like, he's got them playing. And I just wonder if it's going to be one of those kind of cat and mouse, battle of the wits kind of battles between Pochettino and Ange, where it's like, well, Tottenham are going to look at what Chelsea have done this season and be like, right, well, we see that against Arsenal and Liverpool. They try and play football. We also try and play football, but then we've seen how easy it is for Forest to beat Chelsea, Brentford to beat Chelsea. So do they revert? So is it going to be a case of like, well, actually, this is a really good game for Chelsea to play, because systematically, matchup-wise, against this opposition, we technically, from the data we've got so far, should play a bit better and have more of a chance. But like, there's also that thing in the back of my mind where I'm like, well, yeah, this is such an inexperienced squad. There's a lot more experience in that Tottenham squad, and that at the moment is the king in the Premier League. You can't be a team full of 21-year-olds that have got talent and ability and one day are going to be really good, but then expect to be anything other than 11th in the Prem. So I really don't know what to expect from this game, to be honest. I don't know what I'm going to say in the predictions video on Friday. No idea.
Yeah, and stay tuned for that one, because that, I think, is going to be the question that everyone wants answered. What do we think Chelsea are going to do away at Tottenham on Monday? So make sure you're here for the prediction video. But you mentioned a very good point there, and I want to bring it to that. When you talk about the league position, and you talk about the results that we actually played well in, despite not winning, You know, we played well against Liverpool, but we didn't win. We played well against Arsenal. We threw that away and we didn't win. You do that enough times and you're still going to end up in a very low league position. What is deemed acceptable to you, and do you have a line? Because right now we're in 11th, and if we put in these sort of performances against the big teams and then we struggle against the little teams, do you cut this whole squad and the manager some slack even if we're very low in the table, or do you have a limit? Do you deem like somewhere which is just, no, we can't go past this line?
I mean, I think if it gets to the point where it's like New Year's Day and it looks impossible for Chelsea to even get Europa League, I'm like, well, what the flipping heck are we doing here? And then it's like, okay, then you're in January. You've got an open transfer window. But I don't even think buying more players, lots of them, is even the answer at all anymore. I do think there's absolutely had to have been a tapering of expectations. But I think from this point, realistically, and I want to try and keep it realistic because I keep getting overdone by everybody for flipping being too optimistic. I think if we can get top 7 from what I've seen of the rest of the teams right now, look at the top 5. Like, there's 5 points between, I think, Villa and Newcastle. Newcastle are also unbeaten in their last 5. They're on the up as well. So there's 5 or 6 teams there that are just significantly better than the rest of them. Then you've got your Brightons, your West Hams, your Man Uniteds. I think even Brentford are above us now because they beat us. But, like, I don't expect them to be able to sustain any kind of form. So I think Chelsea have just got to, at this point, start aiming to be the best of the rest away from that top 6, which I don't even put Man United in right now. And like, they're having a woeful season. They've lost 5 out of 10 games, but yet they're still better than Chelsea. So if we can get 7th from this point, obviously that's flipping progress from today, from right now. But at the moment, like, I don't want to be confident anymore. I just want to be like excited. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I feel you. And I understand there has to be a balance of not being too optimistic, but also being, there has to be a level of realism there as well. You do want to be slightly positive, though, in what you believe in, because if not, you know, this is just going to go south. So I completely understand. What's the difference, do you reckon, between Tottenham and Chelsea, for example? How is it that, you know, we've had Pochettino come in, for example, and we've seen what Chelsea have done this season so far, and we are sitting in 11th. Tottenham, a team like Tottenham, who don't have any winners in their teams, right? Let's be real. You could argue James Maddison, but in terms of when Ange comes in, not winning the Premier League at all, but it's just they're sitting top and they're loving life and they're playing great football, and it's just clicked in a few games. All of a sudden, boom, it's working. What's the difference? Why?
You know what?
Why does that not apply for Chelsea as well?
I hate to be that guy, but this is literally the perfect thing that we can discuss in the Tottenham video. Like, because,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, the point that I would make about this one, I think this has to be the perfect place to tell people, you've got to watch the next video tomorrow, because we're going to talk about how Tottenham might actually win the Premier League. And I think the point in comparison to Spurs and Chelsea would fit so well in that one. So I don't want to just be that guy, but I've just been that guy. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, make sure you're there for the next video, definitely, without a question. In terms of Chelsea now and moving forward, your overall assessment, if you just had to give an overall, you know, summary of your feeling and where you think it's going, players and manager, what's your sentiment?
I think it's going in the right direction in every sense. I'm seeing enough from Poch, if we're not going to isolate the Brentford game, to suggest that we're moving significantly better than we were last season. I like the energy at the club in terms of the way that the players still seem to actually want to care now compared to what we saw last season. And I think we've genuinely hit rock bottom already, and it can only go up from here. So with that being said, I'm optimistic that it can be better than it is right now. I'm just not going to allow myself anymore. I say this, but if we beat Spurs, I will. I don't want to allow myself to get too carried away anymore from this point. That's my summary.
If we don't get a result against Tottenham, does that change?
No, because I wouldn't expect to anyway, because they're significantly better than we are in every single department.
Okay, fair. So, I mean, there is a level of, okay, look, we are where we are. There has to be a little bit of patience and a little bit of time given for this to be able to gel with, you know, with what Poch wants and these players being able to get, to fix the sort of things that they need to get done, much like Jackson, for example, up top, or if we're looking to get things done on our wings and, things that don't seem to be clicking at 100%. You just reckon with a bit of time, this will eventually mould into what it needs to mould into.
Yeah, I think the players who've got coming back from injury, like if you can keep Reece fit and Nkunku, immediately Chelsea are just levels above the starting 11s that we can field right now. So with that being said, I still think that even those two alone, regardless of like momentum and other players coming into form or whatever, and maybe other teams falling out of form once we've got this horrible run out the way, I think Reece James and Nkunku do have the capacity as players to make this team significantly better overnight if they can stay fit and on the field.
Fair. And look, I would share that sentiment. At the same time, I do think that the pressure is on. Inexperience is inexperience. I do think there's a lot of these players, much like the ones that we're looking up top specifically, because in January, I do think Chelsea will need to move if we're looking at a centre forward or if we're looking at defenders, or it is what it is. Unless if all of a sudden we get these players just clicking and firing, when we don't really expect them to, that's going to be key. But if not, then I think that there needs to be reinforcements. Pochettino, I do think, needs to find his best 11. Yeah. I still think there is a little bit of experimenting going on. There is a bit of shuffling that doesn't need to happen, a little bit of tinkering that doesn't need to happen. We saw the example at right back against Brentford, which did cost us to a level. So I do think that players and manager both need to try and find some stability in what they're doing, and bring down the guesswork a little bit and just roll with what they genuinely think is going to work and make it work. And stop tinkering a bit. If that happens, then I think little bit of time, little bit of results, and then the confidence begins to pop up. But there needs to be consistency. We suffer from so much inconsistency. It's ridiculous. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed, and then we can be more optimistic with our predictions, I think, because now I think we're going to be a bit more realistic and a little bit more cautious. So, Your final words on Chelsea as a whole. Go on.
I've got points to pick up, right? I'm 9 points behind you in the prediction series. So for me to predict Chelsea wins at this point, it's not that I don't love Chelsea anymore, guys. It's more like, just got to be a bit realistic about it, really, haven't we? No, look, my final points, in all fairness, that Brentford game is beyond deflating. And what I saw building up to that was good. And I think Enzo being out, you spend 100 mil on a midfielder. He plays every game. People are excited about him. You take him out the squad completely with a bit of surprise element, I guess, for Poch, for the squad, for the fans. It's bound to hurt. But I do think that there is a world where Chelsea playing against these better sides in the next few weeks could somehow see us get positive results, which would just lead to positive everything. So let's just flip in, hope and pray, Big Eunice. That's all I've got to say, mate. I'm done.
Fingers crossed, because look, I want to say this. There is that side of optimism and looking at it from a perspective of, okay, look, as long as we keep, as long as we fix things and we are able to progress bit by bit, then that could breed confidence and that could really skyrocket things. At the same time, they have to be aware, and there has to be a level of urgency and even pressure on themselves. If things don't go so well, we find ourselves in a position that is just deemed, if we're 13th or 14th again, that's just unacceptable. No matter what happens, you get to December, for example, and you're in that part of the table, at the end of the day, the pressure's on. And that, as much as we as fans would want to come on and say, oh, no, but okay, well, let's just keep giving time and whatnot. At the end of the day, the results are the results. And this is what I want to stress, into the team and into the manager, is that you have to deliver when it gets to a certain point. You just have to. That's just the name of the game. And I'm sure they're aware of that. And I'm sure Poch is aware of that. We're seeing the effects on Ten Hag and United right now. There's already talk about Ten Hag and whatnot. If you get to a certain point at the table and it just doesn't fix itself, the club is going to, at some point, be forced to take some sort of action. They can't just let it rot. Do you know what I mean? So we have to fix up. We need to really, with a bit of urgency and pressure, as much time we do want to give, but there has to be something ticking and there needs to be progress seen. That's all we ask. There needs to be an upward trajectory, step by step, but it needs to be going upwards. And if it does, then cool. So fingers crossed that's what we see. George, been a pleasure, and I'm sure everyone's enjoyed this Chelsea talk because it is our club, and I know there's a lot of people wanting to hear what we have to say collectively on it. So I hope all of you have enjoyed it. Do not forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell too. Be there for tomorrow's video where we go over Tottenham and their possibility of winning the league. So it's a complete 180 of what we've spoken about with Chelsea, and we will see you then. George, you want to give us the sign off?
Oh, I dreaded tomorrow's video, but please come watch it.